We also go wrong in that is missing the forest for the trees and not understanding what the big picture is, what's truly causing that problem and pain. Okay, so it's the behavior that's causing the problem and pain. It wasn't baseball's fault. It wasn't football's fault. It wasn't bench press's fault. It was your fault.
Yeah.
Your fault, right? So that's the thing. We can't run away from that problem. If you run away from it, what we'll see here is pain is a symptom, not a diagnosis. When you run away from that problem, you start actually laying the groundwork for even more problems down the road. Because it might be a rotator cuff now, but it could be neck strain next, and then migraines, chronic migraines, and then thoracic outlet syndrome, and then now you can't feel your arm. And now because you can't feel your arm, now your shoulder starts slumping forward. And now because you can't control that shoulder, now you're getting pulled this way over time. And now you start getting lower back pain, and now your life sucks. And that's where this comes in, right? Nice transition. Okay, so we have happy face. Gravity is acting straight down, stacking our joints. Everything's good, happy, awesome. But move forward, you start compensating a little bit, and say your posture sucks. You have weak upper back muscles, tight pecs, tight biceps, adaptively shortened and tight traps. Gravity is still acting on that vertical line, except now because you have weight going forward, your body's having to put equal strain in the opposite direction in order to solve it. So I just said a forward head posture. So you ever see people with like that neck bump? Okay, so that neck bump, again, this is how amazing the human body actually is. Your brain senses that displacement of weight, and it says, okay, I have about 12 pounds going that way. I can't necessarily add more weight back there, or 12 pounds back that way, but what I can do is I can start depositing some fat right at the base of the neck to act as an anchor to try to keep this from happening even worse, and to try to offset it by giving some weight down at the base. Okay, but what happens is that's not a viable, sustainable option, and gravity acts constantly over time. And what happens as you get older, generally speaking, to your muscles? They get weaker, right? So over time you're getting weaker and weaker. That forward posture is getting worse and worse and worse. I call this the snow on a tree branch analogy. Okay, because as snow piles onto that tree branch, more and more strain is going to be felt more and more towards the trunk where the branch is anchored in the tree. You guys can imagine that? Like snow piling onto a tree branch and that warping over time. It's the same thing that happens here. It's just gravity's effect on things. So we need to know where tension is being held and should it even be there in the first place. Why does this even happen? Thinking about compensation and behavior, and how do we fix it? Well, you can't just fix the shoulder, right? You can't just get someone to have really strong external rotators if they have no idea how to even use their external rotators in their big movements, right? So, this is all making sense so far? Yeah, cool. How many of you guys have seen this, right? How many of you have seen this happen, like in older people, right? They didn't just come out of the womb like that. I hope not. Again, it's really frustrating. People are just like, oh, it's just because I'm getting older. It's like, do you not want to get better? Like, can I not prove to you? Like, not even, you don't have to pay me anything. Like, I will just sit here and take as much time as it takes for me to get it across to you. It's not because you're getting older. It's because you suck at standing up. It's as simple as that. You just suck at it, right? Admit it, own it, and get better at it. And that's the only way it's going to improve. So, moving on, I came up with 3 facts about posture I think we can universally agree upon. 1, it requires control over the placement and displacement of tension felt throughout the body. Right? Can we agree on that? Thumbs up if we agree. Yeah? Okay. So, number 2, demonstrates an understanding of proper joint mechanics. Can we agree on that? Right? And don't just agree because I'm saying it. Like, think it through. And number 3, it showcases mindfulness of the body and its relative position in space. Okay, so if all 3 of those points kind of match up with this problem here, so far so good. Okay, so now I have posture here written in blue and in brackets. Okay, why? Why? If we can think about what I talked about 2 weeks ago or last week, last week with the high school development and life, something equals something, which also equals something else. It's currently on the board. I'm standing right next to it. What does this all mean? Sport equals life and life equals sport, right? So, does this just mean posture? Do these concepts only relate to posture? Could I possibly rewrite this as squat? Maybe deadlift? Yeah? Maybe bench press? Can we?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so, right? It works, right? If you have a proper bench press, and we'll find out that in the blueprint for bench press, and you can see, you'll be able to see like what I mean by it's complicated. In order to bench press properly, you need to have a really good idea of how to control and feel tension throughout the body and get it in the right areas because of a lifetime of bad habits outside. Demonstrate your understanding of how your joints are supposed to move and play around with each other. Not only individually, like having your arms spin in its socket and while the shoulder blades stay still, but also whether your joints can play nice with all the other joints in the playground. Okay, because it's one thing if your kid's a nice kid, like on their own in the sandbox, but when the other kids, they're just turning into a little punk and starts beating up other kids, right? That's not a good relationship. But in isolation, it works, right? Physical therapy, I got my external rotators going. Check, that's good. Done, you're cured. No, right? So, understanding that, and then bench press also, now I don't think it only showcases a mindfulness, I think it shows mastery, true mastery of posture. I know it sounds like kind of a big statement, but it really, again, you'll see, shows mastery of posture and your body's relative position in space. So, and again, what does this all mean? Sport equals life, life equals sport. This can be subbed out for any possible human movement, and it all checks out. Because human movement is just another reflection of good posture. Number 2, I talked about this a little bit earlier. Pain is a symptom, not a diagnosis. Again, it's not, you don't look on, or go to a doctor and say, yeah, I've been feeling a little queasy lately, I have a runny nose and a cough, and I'm not really quite sure what's going on. Okay, how much credibility would you give a doctor that just said, yeah, it sounds like you have a really bad case of feeling queasy, having a runny nose, and having a bad cough? I think that's what's wrong with you. You guys laugh, and it's like, that's stupid, right? But then it's like, okay, my shoulder's bugging me. When I bench press, what's going on? Oh, it sounds like you have a really bad case of you shouldn't be bench pressing. Just don't bench press. Don't have a runny nose. Don't feel queasy. All right? Don't have a cough. That's not an answer. You're telling me what I'm already feeling. Fix what I'm feeling. And then number 3, movement is medicine. And that is how we're going to fix it, right? Just like if you have the wrong medication for something, it's not going to fix the root cause. So if your medicine is just avoiding stuff, you're not moving, you're not identifying what the actual root cause is, which is just really crappy movement. And it's very easy to fix. It really is easy to fix. It's just understanding a few concepts and being able to apply it over time. That's the really hard part, is being able to apply that consistently over time. And that's where our value comes into play. You're not, and again, when I first started, I hated selling. I really could not save my life because I felt dirty. I felt like people don't actually need this stuff. I'm just giving something that's a little bit extra and great. Like, where do I really come into play? And then I started learning about all this stuff and actually practicing it myself and with some of the clients that I did have. And holy crap, I started seeing that this truly is something that's incredibly valuable. And the sooner you guys can start implementing this and using it, you're gonna make your lives much, much easier and more have a better, like Rachel, you felt really fulfilled yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Like, you didn't sell anything, you didn't, like, it wasn't like a business-wise great day, great feeling, but why did you feel good?
Because I just helped someone learn how to honestly walk better.
Okay, were they in pain? What was going on?
They just had like really bad posture. So this girl, she was like an accountant. She's only been there for like 3 months. And I was like, okay, where do you feel the pain?
Did she look like this?
Yeah, well, the second one, yeah. The second one. And she was like, well, whenever I do anything, I feel it in my lower back. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you do for a living? And she was like, I'm an accountant. I just started there like 6 months ago. And like, she didn't buy anything, but it was like, okay, well, what do you have to do? And I said, well, you just have to like make sure that you're bracing your core, the bracing sequence, right? So
it works, huh?
Yeah, it works.
It's crazy. And even though they didn't buy anything from you, and there was no, you were getting paid, right? The hourly, right? For the appointment, right?
Yeah, it was just for the appointment.
But they didn't pay you anything, right?
No.
And in a normal circumstance, I'd be like, that was a missed sale. Like, I didn't sell anything. I wasn't productive. Yeah. On paper, you weren't productive.
Yeah.
But in that person's reality, in that person's life, you probably changed their life for the better for the rest of their life, hopefully, right?
Well, if they can implement it. Yeah.
Exactly, if they implement it, right? Mm-hmm. But you gave them that pathway for success.
Yeah.
Okay, it's up to them to use it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you feel so good, and especially because if she had been feeling back pain for the last 6 months, I've had back pain before, and it blows. It really sucks because you can't do anything. And to have that taken away just by it being brought to my attention, oh yeah, I should probably use this thing. Oh wow, now I don't have back pain anymore. I can do more things with my life. Cool, thank you. Like a legitimate, like, thank you, right? Like, it makes you feel really good because you just helped this person with very little effort on your part, right? It wasn't a huge investment.
Yeah, well, it's because like we always do it every single day. It's like natural for us, but then for them, it's kind of like, oh, I actually have to think about it and be aware of it. And
the more you start interacting with people that I'd never even thought about any of this before, the more you realize, oh man, I should really start thinking about this more because it's a very big problem and it's much more prominent than I ever thought.
Yeah.
And hopefully that's a little motivating to continue learning about it. But yeah, it really is true that when you can start implement all this stuff, your job in selling and being able to change lives, just your life itself becomes so much better. You can start learning more too, because like you'll come across problems, and I love when I'm hurt because I'm my own best guinea pig. I'll just try to figure out why I'm hurting, and I'm gonna come across someone at some point who has the same problem, and now I have a better answer for them. So does it all make sense so far?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're all good. Everything's good. Okay. So I wanted to start with a blueprint for bench press, and I don't want this to intimidate anyone. I want to show the reality of things that need to be in check first before someone wants to hop on the bench press and try to push as much weight as they can because it's Monday. So when we look at this first, number 1, can you gauge tension? 2, can you control tension? Number 3, can you brace? Number 4, can you breathe? 5, can you control your shoulder blades? Or can you find and control your shoulder blades? Number 6, can you functionally separate your arms from your torso? Number 7, can you row? Number 8, can you control it? Number 9, can you push up? Number 10, can you control it? Okay, so far, if we look at steps 1 through 6, what does this look like that we just talked about? Yes, because it says brace there, but what? Posture. Yes, posture. Looks a lot like posture, right? Okay, so nothing about bench press yet. How about here? Can I row? Can I control it? Can I do a push-up and can I control it? Still no bench press. But why is this important? What about the row?
Is it still posture?
So, yes. All right, no mistakes. Okay, so if I were to do a row, right, and let's pretend I'm not even telling you what movement I'm doing. You're just gonna have to guess. What am I doing?
Looks like bench.
It looks like bench press?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you're pushing it up.
Okay. Well, if I were to do this?
It looks like row.
Okay, but why? Okay? But now let's just say, regardless of my position, so you're not right and you're not wrong. Why?
It's the same movement.
It's the exact same movement pattern. The exact same thing. But the opposite, right? And generally people have crappy posture. It's because the muscles in control of maintaining this neutral position, the posterior chain, is weak and sucks at doing its job. And if you can't even do a row properly, okay, and set the table for proper shoulder mechanics, upper back mechanics like thoracic extension, and not even be able to breathe in that thoracic extension, you're just breathing through your shoulders all the time, and you're wondering why you have so many headaches and your shoulder hurts all the time. If you have no game plan for the opposite movement to help stabilize that the bench press, what business do you even have bench pressing in the first place? Right? You're just setting yourself up for disaster, setting yourself up for this scenario, and that only gets worse over time. Okay? So, can you even row? Very important. Equally important, can you control it? Okay, because I might be able to do a row, but if I'm just blowing through reps, and you ever see me bench pressing like this, you think I'm in the NFL Combine, right? Trying to bench press 225 for 30 reps, right? Absolutely not. You're not. If you can't control the load and in that rowing position and actually feel those muscles stabilizing and holding and bearing that weight, again, you have no business bench pressing. And the same thing with the push-up. Again, like the personal satisfaction of showing someone just how badly they need some humble pie, getting someone to do a proper push-up. And why do you think that is? Like, what's push-ups relation to bench press?
Top of the movement.
It's what?
The row movement again.
Right. It's the same movement, right? Now the implementation of the movement is again slightly different. So rows and bench press / push-ups, it's all the same positioning. It's just bench press, push-ups is a push, rows is a pull. Mechanics do not change. It's almost literally the exact same thing. The only difference between the push-up and a bench press is in a push-up, you're just trying to stabilize your body. The earth is already very, very stable. Okay? So that's all you're trying to do is stabilize what business you have going on here in that range of motion and then controlling it. Bench press, on the other hand, you're having to stabilize this bar hanging over your head. If you're not able to stabilize it properly, right? What happened? Did you guys hear about the? I think it's Derek McKnight in USC. Yeah, right. Where he's suicide grip, and there's a reason why they call it suicide grip, but it fell out and he wasn't able to stabilize and it crushed his windpipe. Yeah, not good, right? So you want to be able to perform a push-up where you're the most stable, control that stability before you even think about having a more unstable implement like a barbell and a bench press, and do that. So. One of the reasons or why we want to make sure that we're doing this is we're proving ourselves that we have a good understanding of how our body is supposed to operate. And if you can't do any of these things, then you have no business being there in the first place. So I came up with a 3-step guide to a badass bench press. I thought I was very clever with it. I was kind of proud of myself. I got this little acronym, okay, BAD, badass. It stands for brace, arc and absorb, and drive. Can I get some credit? Like, is that kind of cool? So here, not to sound redundant, but we have brace, right? And we're trying to mind the gap with the lower back here. We're not trying to completely eliminate that arch in the lower back, but we're also not trying to overdo it, right? We want to find that middle ground. We're gauging tension and controlling that tension. And oftentimes I'll hear people say, "Oh, but I watched this YouTube video of this powerlifter doing this." I say, "Stop right there. That's powerlifting. That's a sport. It's a specific movement for that sport, right? You can't look at someone who's an athlete in a sport and say, "Oh, I should be able to do that too," because sport, even though it's an expression of human movement, it's has more intense demands than a sport. And that powerlifter has probably been preparing for that sport for a long time, and or has some really good coaches putting them in that position for a very specific reason and under very specific circumstances. Maybe they're not artificially creating that lower back arch in the lower back, but that arch is coming from a massive amount of core bracing and lat engagement. But to you, it just looks like, oh, they're just puffing their chest up and throwing their lower back into it. No, like use your head. So brace, right? You gotta make sure you're setting the table for yourself and controlling where the tension and the path of the weight is gonna be going. Number two, we want to arc and absorb. So when I talk about arc, there's gonna be a small arc, and you can see in the picture here, and it's supposed to be natural and only as a means of stacking the joints and balancing the weight. And when I'm talking about movement, a movement for one person, like a bench press for one person, for example, is going to look a little bit different for another person, and a little bit different for that third person, and a little bit different for that fourth person, because everyone's different. Different limb lengths, different life experiences, different limitations in their range of motion, whatever the case may be. But we're following concepts, right? And all we're trying to do with this arc, and again, it's minimal, it's not big, but it's there. And it's only there so that we can keep the joints stacked. And I say that because when you're actually doing it, you're gonna way overthink that arc and start swinging the weight around. That's not the point. You're letting gravity win. You're absorbing the weight and balancing it as it comes down. And when it comes to absorbing the weight, I have this rubber band analogy where our muscles are just bio and neuroreactive rubber bands, and they receive a stretch and they contract. So if we're bench pressing, and a lot of our problems come from not being able to control tension and overdoing tension. So when we look at the eccentric phase of this, right, the lowering phase of a movement, if I'm fighting gravity on the way down, and I'm really trying not to get crushed by this weight, I'm way overthinking all my things, and I want my shoulder to hurt, and I'm taking up all this tension, and all of it is being placed in my anterior delt, my bicep, and my forearm. Where do I want to put my bench press instead? My chest, right? It's a chest exercise. It's not, I mean, it's a little bit of an anterior delt exercise, but it's not a bicep exercise, and it's not an exercise in grip. So if you're feeling in those places, chances are something's going wrong. And so instead of thinking about fighting gravity, we want to think about accepting it, right? We want to give that chest a reason to work by having it stretch open. Rubber band feels the tension, rubber band feels the stretch. Brain says, ooh, there's that stretch, there's tension. I want to use that tension to carry me through the concentric portion of that movement. And so if we're fighting and misplacing tension, we're not allowing our rubber bands to work properly, and that's where a lot of those pains start to happen. And then finally, does that make sense? Rubber band analogy? Okay, so, and then finally, drive. So we're trying to find a way to keep our shoulder blades relatively pulled back while also pushing energy in front of our body. And it's much harder than you think. If you ever have to teach upper body mechanics and bench press, you'll see just how frustrating it can be, because people have, I want to do this. Reach for the jar of cookies. I want to do this, right? And it's just, this is how people, like when they sit down eating dinner, on their laptop, doing homework, reading, sitting down in a chair. This is where people live their lives, and this is their go-to game plan when they want to do stuff out in front, because this is where our lives are. And again, why it's a big mistake to cancel out bench press in someone, or at least the concept of bench press from someone's program, just because they can't understand that at that moment is full of faults. Because if you have no idea how to fix this problem in general, especially as it relates to bench press, how are you going to expect to fix it in your everyday life? Right? That problem's only going to start becoming worse. So one of the cues that I've used in the past, and it helped me whenever I'm doing my powerlifting, and it's the same thing with deadlifting and squat. When I start to really get into my heavy weight, and I know like compensations are around the corner, and I want to be thinking about moving the weight, not all the little details, a cool thing you can do is think about the movement in the opposite direction, right? The opposite direction of where the weight's headed. So let's take deadlift, for example, first. I think it's the easier one. So if I'm trying to pick up 575 and I want to think about it a little bit differently, I'm not at the gym and it's not 575. I'm on the beach and I'm trying to pick up 575,000 pounds, okay? Now, the beach has sand, okay? It's not a solid surface. And 575,000 pounds, I'm probably not gonna pick up off that sand. But what I can do is use that weight as leverage to pull myself deeper into the ground. Because if I send energy down this way, for every action, there's a equal and opposite reaction. If I just keep sending energy down this way and give my body a chance at scaling up to the amount of muscle that it needs and the force it needs to move that load, I just need to keep hunkering down and pulling until eventually that weight starts to move, and I just continue that. Now that I've overcome inertia, now I just continue riding that same wave on the way up. Does that make sense with as it relates to deadlifts? So now when it comes to bench press, if I have to move the weight 3 feet this way in order to get it back up on top of my shoulders, I need to also think about doubling that distance by pushing myself 3 feet away from the bar. So I'm trying to get 6 feet of distance away from myself from the bar. I can't get that 6 feet with my arms because it won't go that far. I need to think about grounding myself and pushing myself deeper into the bench so that I don't lose it all and just throw everything forward. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Okay, so, damn it, I wanted to go out onto the floor. Mikey, what's going on with your bench press? What was the context for wanting to go over this? With posture and bench press specifically.
I mean, before I got this with you like a month ago, and I see it with a lot of my clients too, just like, I was always feeling it like way too much in my shoulders.
Okay, actually come up front and tell everyone about what happened and the camera, because it's for YouTube.
Wait, so like show it?
Yeah, like show people.
I'm on like
scoot back.
scoot back, so like right here.
Yeah, you're fine.
So like if I was like on a bench, what was my main problem? So like anytime I was going to like push up, same thing you were just saying, like I would push up too far, and then once you're right here and you have a bunch of weight, like it's pretty hard to move around at that point and stabilize. So all doing like right here, and then that caused my shoulders are still pretty tight, so I have to like work on stretching every day.
Okay.
But
so what was the fix for you that helped?
For that. Me, it was like your analogy with the arc and absorb. So kind of like not so much like overthinking it when it's coming down and getting all like tense, just kind of like letting it relax, stretch the chest, make it nice and wide, stack the joints, and then the drive too kind of helps. Just stay under it.
Now when I vaguely remember what we talked about, but did you have any idea about the arc of the weight, or was it just you were pressing straight up and down?
I was pressing straight up and down.
Okay, so go ahead and put your arms out in front, and yeah, there's the line. Okay, so can you guys see his hand and where his shoulder is, right? Is his hand above, in line, or below his shoulder line?
Below.
Below his shoulder line, right? And gravity, even though he's standing up and he technically lying down, works in a vertical line. So where I'm trying to keep my joints stacked, and so see there, and I don't have, this is gravity, right? And I don't have that joint stacked. That means gravity is technically trying to do this to him constantly in that press. Why do you think his shoulder hurts? It's trying to hold it there. It's trying to work, not even to bring it back, just to keep it from getting worse. So he is wasting so much energy and destroying his shoulder in the meantime, just by not having his joints stacked and lined up. But if I were to come here and stack his joints, go ahead and make fists for me. And I were to, so act like gravity and act in a straight vertical line. No, keep your arm straight. Yeah, stay strong. And let me win with the shoulder. If I were to act like gravity, keep your arm straight though. Don't make it rebel. Act like gravity, and I'm stacking in my joints. Gravity is gonna stack his shoulder into the back of the socket where it's supposed to be. We want to show is going which direction, where and where. kind of back. Down and back, right? So gravity's already going to help you get back. Hey, you just need to make sure you're going down, right? Keeping them from shrugging and rolling out. Okay, so that's all you're doing. You let gravity help you out, do all that hard work for you. Yes, way more energy you have to actually do the movement. Okay, you're not wasting energy, not mindful of your mechanics. Does that make sense, Mikey? Mm-hmm. What else is happening? Because this is your lecture, so I want to make sure I'm helping you out.
Just with the bench.
Or posture.
Posture. I mean, I feel like you covered everything. I feel like the biggest thing I see with people, myself included, is like tight traps. So just going back to the bench, kind of stacking the loads the correct way, and makes it so much easier. Like I forgot how much weight we were doing, but like we added like a lot of weight, and like it never felt like it was so like easy almost, because it just like was all stacked together.
Your body was doing what it was designed to do, and you felt the benefit of that, right?
Yeah. Didn't hurt anywhere. Felt strong.
Great. Yeah, and it's really good to know, because if someone's trying to get heavy weight and they can't get that heavier weight because something's hurting and they're just thinking push through it, and they start getting frustrated for weeks and weeks and weeks because they're not getting stronger. You can start seeing why, like maybe taking a small step back, sacrificing the weight a little bit, fixing your form and your posture, and then applying that new form of posture to progressively heavier and heavier loads as you get back into your thing. You're going to be not only like strong, like as strong as you were before pretty quickly, because you already have the potential there, and you're able to do it with shitty form.
Yeah.
Now just imagine if you had a great form.
Yeah. Makes it way easier.
Way easier, right? Right. So, not only going to get back to that weight relatively quickly, but you're going to be well beyond that, because now you're in a better position. And you're not in pain, and pain is inhibitory because it's a survival mechanism. So, I'll have to,
Two things real quick.
Yes.
For like the rubber band effects, after you brace yourself, do you kind of use the power from the base of your feet to help press within it?
Absolutely.
With the drive, use your whole body?
Yeah, I was running out of room. I wanted to go into a little more detail, but even though bench press is an upper body exercise, it's a full body lift.
Yeah.
And that's how everything is. Because why? What else is a full body movement? Posture.
Yeah.
And we're reinforcing good posture. That's all we're doing. Okay. And number two.
Do you follow the that break the bar effect where you're
Sure.
grabbing it and breaking it?
Sure.
To help?
Anything like that is just a cue. And a cue is just a combination of words that gets someone to think about a correction of the thing they make, and makes it a correction easier for them to do. So for someone, for one person, breaking the bar might be the perfect combination of words, right? If they understand what that actually means and what they're supposed to do. But for another person, they might hear that and think, I need to break the bar.
I gotcha.
I'm still trying to get to the same place, but I'm doing it the complete wrong way.
Yeah.
But you told me to break the bar, what's happening?
Yeah.
So that's where you come into play, where you have to be that trainer, that multi-talented person that says, okay, this way of learning didn't work, I need to think of another way to teach this person.
I just wasn't sure, personally, for you, if you use that
Yeah, it's just any one of those things is going to be cute. The only one I kind of have a problem with, not in terms of bench press, but in general, is drive through your heels. But I can see if someone's squatting on their toes, then I would say drive on their heels, because to them heels is going to really mean center of the foot, because they're so used to being on their toes, they're going to feel like they're on their heels. But for someone who's already mid-foot and heel, you never want to be squatting on your heels, because you don't live your life on your heels.
Right.
The expression getting caught on your heels generally means you're unprepared. Why the hell would you want to be unprepared with weight bearing down on your spine?
Right.
Makes no sense to me.
Right.
So good question though. And there's another thing I wanted to get into with the absorb. Okay, and there's 2 different ways we can think of the eccentric. I brushed on it a little bit, but we don't want to think about fighting gravity, and so it depends on what you're trying to do. And if you're trying to maximize strength, there's two different ways we can think about strength, either elastic strength, which is that rubber band quick stretch and contract against that stretch, or static strength, which is, or what I call true strength, because you're not relying on the rubber band component. Your rubber band it's a rubber band, right? It's warm. So it's been thrown in the microwave, you stretch it and you hold it in that stretch, now it starts to lax into that stretch. You don't have that quick contraction to use anymore. Now what else do you have? You have to use something else now. Huh?
Yeah, like you're compromising. Doing something else.
I think way more simply. You have to use something differently.
Right.
Your nervous system, right? Central nervous system has to kick in and go and scale you up because you don't have that quick stretch shortening cycle to pull that weight back up. So you have to really teach that muscle to be strong. And so to prevent injury and all that, that's a great way you can progress exercise. Can you control it? Can you control that weight? Because if you have zero control of the weight and you're just increasing load after load after load, you're going to get hurt, right? But if you can actually learn how to control in the eccentric and an isometric and concentric setting and be able to master any variation of the movie, just applying concepts, you're going to be in a really good spot. I'll cut it there. I'm already too much over it, but thank you for coming. This will help. Yeah.
Do you have one for next week already?
Yes, Victor, you wanted to go over pain and posture. And I think yours actually related to bench press, anyways, too. So that's. I guess we're just gonna have
you can kind of just
a bench press series. If you want me to explain pain, then I'll just do that, like in general.
yeah.
Okay.
Cool. I was gonna suggest something totally different.
What do you want?
Just like more squat and like lower back and weak. Like the weaking of it.
Okay, I can tie that a little bit to explain pain.
Okay.
So we'll do that next week. Explain pain.
Do you want me to put that down for you?
Yeah. So Vic has a pink pad on there. Just write it on the pink pad too.
Okay.
The same one. Cool. Any other questions about anything? No? It was good? Awesome.
Thank you.